I hope I'm in the right spot. Oh, come on. Oh my God. Oh my God. How do I... Hold on a second, guys. Dock, live control panel, chat. Oh, come on. Okay, hold on. Docs, chat. Why is the chat not? I can't see the chat box. Okay. Why is this not showing? All right, I can't see you guys. How do I put this? All right, give me a second. There is noise. All right, let's see. Let me see what you guys can see. Where is... Why don't I hear anything? How do I... Oh my God, where is the fucking sound? Give me a second, guys. Streamer mode enabled. Is that what it is? Voice and video settings. Fault.
Important.
Okay.
Nobody needs to see me anyway.
Stop. Well, they can see you, so we might
Finally.
as well go ahead and introduce ourselves. For those of you that don't know me, my name is
Jesus,
Jessie
this is
Punch. I'm
terrible.
a content creator, a journalist, podcaster here in the NASCAR world. I am so thrilled to be here today because I am dipping my toes more and more into the NASCAR gaming world, and knowing that we have NASCAR 25 here rolling out towards the end of the year. I'm excited to introduce you guys to Matt Lewis, who is one of the minds behind the game. He's a producer. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about his involvement in creating the game. But Matt, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to pick your brain.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you jumping into the gaming space. It's going to be a good time today, and hopefully this is not the last time we do this. I think we're going to set up a couple more of these, so it's exciting. Yeah, I'm one of the producers on NASCAR 25. I'm sort of the walking proof that when a gamer's mom tells them you can't make money playing video games, you absolutely can. So
You say bet? Hold my beer, Mom.
I hope you guys can hear this.
I think I counted before this. I'm on my 12th NASCAR console game now. So spent about 15, 16 years at EA doing NASCAR, worked on Madden, worked on college football, a little bit of everything. Then went to 704 games for a while, did NASCAR Heat 1 through 4, and then spent a couple years with Monster Games doing some dirt racing stuff, and then that led to the acquisition with iRacing. So here we are, a bit of a full circle. I used to do this 20 something years ago, and back to the NASCAR space.
I think that you have seen it all. Every evolution of NASCAR video game for that long is really amazing, and it really just proves that we're in such great hands. And I think you even saying EA probably perked a lot of ears, because those are games that so much nostalgia comes into that. So how do you kind of lean on the experience that you've had there, and what can you tell us about, what we're going to see here with this rollout?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get in and start kind of sharing some details. I know we've been a little light on details, and there's some intention behind that. But I think the coolest part about this for me is the sort of amalgamation of all this talent that we've brought together. And we've got people from the EA days, we've got people from Dirt to Daytona, we've got people from Papyrus, and obviously Papyrus morphing into iRacing. You combine that with the iRacing physics, the laser scanned tracks, the laser scanned car models. Like, it's funny, but like 20 something years ago, we used to dream about this day where it's like, what if we could all get together and take kind of the best of everything and really build this game? So that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're going to do. It's going to be super exciting.
So as far as the developers of the game, give us the background there as to whose hands this is in, and what we can expect and what to trust from them.
Yeah, so this is 100% iRacing. I mean, as I said, we've all come from different angles, but the sort of authenticity and the realism and all of those foundational blocks that iRacing was built on, that's where we're going with this game. Now, that doesn't mean we want this to be iRacing on a console, right? That's not what we're trying to do, and that's not, I don't think, what fans should want us to do. But it's more, like I said, taking the power of iRacing and the accuracy of the data, the accuracy of the physics, the accuracy of the models, and all those things, and applying it to console in the right way with the right style of gameplay.
I see you guys.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but everything that I've understood about the game is, to your point, it's kind of iRacing, but you're bringing the fun back into it. You're taking away some of the pressure that comes with racing on the iRacing platform. So for somebody like me, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not very skilled behind the wheel, and I don't have a sim rig, and I don't have all of this set up. So the idea of getting into iRacing is a bit intimidating, and none of my buddies want to let me hop on their sim and mess with their scores and wreck race cars under their name. So is this something, again, for somebody like me, that I could have a little more fun with it, with a little less pressure? That's my understanding. Was that the goal here?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you do both, right? You have this super wide amount of settings and assists that you can turn on and off, and whether you want to play with the controller or play with the wheel and pedals, and you really sort of give this wide berth of both extremes, right? Now, again, I don't think we're ever going to get to the level of being the true sim on the console, but the idea is people want to win. They want to go out, they want to have fun, they want to win races, they want
Just
to run
let me
short
know
races.
if the volume is okay for you guys.
10-ish lap races, things like that. That's sort of the average in career mode, and
very good,
and how long people are spending in races. But it's really that, as you said, pick up the controller, quick hitting. Let me hop in here, beat my friends, have a good time, and spend 20 minutes or so playing the game.
Well, on that note, then, I know one question I've seen is, was it going to be wheel and pedal compatible, or is this solely looking at controller play?
Yeah, definitely going to do all of the above. Both on console and on PC will have wheel support.
That's great news. And along the same lines there too, something you mentioned, kind of how in depth fans like to get with their racing. What can we expect out of? That's a loaded question there, but as far as things like the damage to the race car, how similar would that be to iRacing as far as the depth of some of those features?
Very similar. I mean, obviously, a lot of the visual damage and a lot of those things have been taken from the sim, and we'll get into some of those questions a little later on tactically how we did it. But yeah, I mean, in console, again, it's a little bit different, right? So you have levels of damage. You have sort of this notion of visual only, where it doesn't really hurt you. Like, it's not going to have a physical effect on your car. And then you've got light damage, which sort of takes some percentage of the damage away, but not as much as full damage. And then you have obviously the full damage, which would be a lot closer to the sim. But for the most part, probably 90% of the console players, they play either on that visual only or the light damage.
Okay, because I know that was one of the questions that had come in preemptively was, when we see damage on a car, will that affect the handling of the car, the speed of the car? So to your point, yes, it will be very similar to iRacing in that regard.
Yeah, for sure.
So then more on a general scale, you've laid it out a little bit, but how similar is it truly to iRacing? What are some of the similarities that we can expect to see? And quite honestly, what are some of the differences that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so I mean, all the tracks, all the car models, all of the assets that we're using are literally coming from the sim. So if you're on the sim and you're a fan of what iRacing's doing, you've noticed that, for example, they've done this huge update with the tracks, right? All of the Nascar track, 30-something tracks, they've been in the process of updating. And the bulk of the reason for doing that was to use them in the NASCAR 25 console game as well. And so there's a much cooler, longer story about sort of the history with Rich Garcia, who ran MGI, and Dave Kemmer, who runs iRacing, and how those guys used to work together and all that. But it's really been this sort of full circle partnership where they kind of said, hey, we're all generally doing the same stuff here. Like, let's get smart about this, and let's really repurpose everything and start to get smart and build a better product, right? Because if you start with the more accurate data to begin with, of course, the end result is going to be much, much better as well. So
makes sense.
Anything asset-wise is truly coming directly from the sim. And then on the physics side, it's sort of an amalgamation, right? Like I said, you don't want exactly the sim physics running on console, but the physics that we do have are tuned by the same guys that tune the physics on the iRacing sim side. So from a feel perspective, it's honestly literally the best driving game I've played, and as I said earlier, I've worked on 12 of them. Now, I know for the guys in the chat that's going to sound like me being a salesman or whatever, but like, that's the truth. I find myself just running laps endlessly, even when I'm just messing around and trying to do some data tuning and things like that. Like, it's super fun to just turn laps in this game. It's really cool.
You mentioning some of the background and some of the names and the relationships of the people that have worked together and put so much effort into developing this game. Can you speak a little more to some of the minds that are working? I know we've seen even some faces in the NASCAR world, like Dale Earnhardt Jr., really putting some effort into getting this game to be what he hopes it can be as far as NASCAR gaming goes. And we know what he did, for the iRacing platform. How involved has he been, and who are some other people who have been kind of helping spearhead that?
Yeah, so having Junior involved has been amazing for me. And a lot of times, you partner with a driver and you get them to do some stuff for you, and it's kind of like they show up and they're like, hey, what do you want? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do?
Over here.
But with Junior, like, he's really engaged.
Where am I? Am I in
We had
here?
some meetings early on where we were just talking through career mode and some of the things we were going to ask him for in terms of content for the game. And it was supposed to be like a 30-minute meeting, right? And we get to talking and he wants to know more and he's digging in, and all of a sudden it's like 45 minutes have passed. You can see his business manager, like, he's a super busy guy, right? You see his business manager popping her head in. She's like, we got to go. He's like, I know, 10 more minutes. I got to figure this out. And we've had several meetings like that where he's just, I think it's both. I think it's he feels the same pressure that we do. Like, we know the last couple of years have not been great for NASCAR fans, and we know the history there, and he wants to over deliver, and so do we. And so there is this sort of extra pressure to get this thing right and make it the best game that it's going to be. And from him to, we've got some real world spotters in Josh Williams and TJ Majors that we're working with. We work with crew chiefs. We've obviously got a long relationship with William Byron. That story that everybody's heard a million times of him starting on the sim in iRacing and eventually making his way to the real deal. Ty Majeski. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And what's cool is, like, everyone is vested in this game being amazing, and all the drivers.
Nope, I don't know how long this is supposed to be, but at some point he's going to have to start reading questions.
It's been really great.
I hope he, mentions
While we're
the
talking
people asking.
more on the backside of the development, for you personally, having the history that you've had in NASCAR gaming, what were some of the things that you really enjoyed about developing this game? I know you mentioned getting to work with some of the same people and kind of bring together an A-team of minds, but for you, are there any stories or things that really hit home for you or particularly fun or interesting when developing this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back just quickly to an earlier story, which is I don't even know, 23, 24 years old probably, working on the early EA games, and
she's
you had some,
I don't know if she's just doing filler, but
and it was tough work.
She's not really getting to the stuff we want to hear about. This is very basic so far.
But like, while the games,
I'm not complaining. I know that they're going to get to the questions, but
getting checked in, you have to make.
She's not really.
There was a
moving
constant
things
bug count
along
on
to
the
where
screen that you had to knock out a certain amount of bugs before you went home, and
hold on.
While those builds were generating at night, the producers and I were on our PCs playing Papyrus NASCAR Racing 2003 season. So
there
that's what
I
I
am.
say when, like, we used to say, I wish we could get all these things worked out and we could all sort of build the game that we've always wanted to build here. But I remember those days vividly where we were on there on the multiplayer playing the game constantly until 3 a.m. just waiting for our builds to finish. Uh-oh, did we lose Jesse?
She's off the live stream. Oh my God. Who's running this live stream? DK?
All right. Well, I've got a list
Dimitri?
of questions here. I can.
Yeah, it's kind
I
of
can
lame
cruise
right
down
now.
here.
Well, she's coming back.
All right, I'm back.
I'll start.
Sorry about
hey.
that, Matt. I didn't mean to leave you hanging. It said the video stage was full and it just kicked me. So it said that's enough of you. So apologies
You know who
there.
kicked her? That was Dimitri Costco.
And you're right in the middle of a great story.
Somebody
too,
better
so
check.
I know that they got to
He's
hear it, but
sabotaging the
I had
live
to miss
stream.
out on
They
the
did.
end there.
All good. So one of the things I wanted to get to kind of right out the gate is, when's the game coming out? Why is there no gameplay trailer? Like, 65-70% of the questions were some version of those two things, right? And
That's
I've
why I
already
didn't
seen it
ask
a million
about
times
that.
in the chat.
I knew everyone else
Here's
was
what I
going
would
to
say.
ask.
So
here we go.
all along, we've told you guys this fall. All of you have assumed, we can read the comments, that it's going to be September or October. That is correct. Like, there is no question it will be late September, early October. We just don't have an exact date yet because it's a myriad of factors. You have to figure out your submission dates with Sony and Microsoft. You've got to figure out your pre-order windows. You got to do all those things. And some of those things aren't 100% in our control. So
I understand.
I'm telling you all, live on the stream, it's going to be late September to early October. So we're in the matter of a couple of weeks there. We will have a hard date very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. I would say by, what is today?
I think today's the 11th of June.
Definitely
12th?
By the end of June, we will have a firm date. But there's no panic. There's no alarm bells going off. We're not going to push it to next year. It's totally on track. It has been the same date since we started this process. It's just, like I said, working out the details. And so then the follow-on question to that is, okay, great. Well, when's the gameplay trailer, right? And so the answer there is, in a perfect world, you want your pre-order to go up and your gameplay trailer to come out at the same time, right? If you look at college football or Madden or any of the sports titles, that's another sort of industry thing, right? I know the guys really well who worked on the reboot of college football. I used to work at that studio for almost 20 years, and they worked on the reboot for a little over 2 years, and the first gameplay trailer they put out was a month before they shipped the game, right? So all of these things are sort of normal.
That's
normal
how I feel.
Process and due diligence things.
I would wait till I'm a month away from the actual release date to
again,
release
I think there's
the
an
trailer.
element of we want to make sure it's right.
You don't want to
well.
release it
and
too
so
early.
What every game developer in history has learned is there's no benefit to showing a game too early. That much we know.
What did I just say?
We just want to make sure that it's to the level that it needs to be.
That's why you guys tune in to me, because I know what I'm talking about.
Well, you're right. I mean, if you even just search NASCAR 25, whether it's on Reddit or any article that comes up, that is the number one asked question is release date. And then also, why haven't we seen gameplay? Should we be concerned? So thank you for kind of easing some of those nerves and telling us that, everything's right on track. We shouldn't be concerned at all. But even though we can't get a visual, can you give us some insight? I know personally in my research, one of the big questions people have about what to expect would be the career mode. How extensive is the career mode? What are some of the options? Is this driver only? Can we own race cars? Can you give us a little bit of insight as to what we're going to potentially see there?
Sure. So there's going to be, the general structure is similar to historically sort of what we've done, right? You're going to start your own team, build your own paint schemes, really sort of start in your backyard garage, right? Your first opportunity is going to be in an ARCA car, work your way through trucks to Xfinity, all the way up to Cup. So the general structure and the general goal is going to be similar to what's been in the past. What's different is a lot of the presentation elements, so I'll give you one example. The point of these things is to not spoil the whole game either. So we're going to kind of do drips and drabs here, but I'll give you one example, which is something that I think is really cool. And I don't remember this ever happening in a console game, but when you get to the point where, let's say you're running a truck and a Cup car at the same time, and you go to a track where all the events are at the same track, instead of race weekend sort of just being focused on an individual series and you're kind of bouncing back to the career main menu, everything's going to be in that race weekend. So when you first go in there, you're going to see like, oh, I have Cup practice, and then I have truck qualifying, and then I have Cup qualifying, and you sort of run those events all in a row, just like they do in the real world. And so that's a pretty big departure from what we've done in the past. Presentation-wise, there's a lot more cutscenes. There's a lot more pre-race sort of emotion, and
that's what I want to
use these words, immersion and emotion. That's what it's all about, right? We really want to focus
presentation.
On what does it feel like to be an actual driver at the racetrack on race weekend? What are the emotions you go through as you go through all these stages? So tons and tons of presentation differences. And I think the big one that, again, I just want to tease and not give away too much, but there's a notion of turning points in career, and we present those to you through a really unique system featuring Dale Jr. and some of his podcast stuff that he does. But the coolest part is you're only going to get maybe 3 or 4 of those in your entire career, right? But from a replayability perspective, you could then go back and play career and have these sort of big moments happen differently every time you play career, right? And so an example would be maybe you've had a string of a couple of bad races, and your PR agent comes on after one of those races and she says, hey, you've got this opportunity to go be in a movie, right? And the movie's going to give you X number of dollars, maybe some reputation points, or maybe something to help you down the road. Or you could go to the shop and you could spend some extra time at the shop this week, and that might build the relationship with your crew guys, and that may make your car a little better for that weekend, or make your pit stops a little faster because there's some camaraderie going on. Like those kind of like A/B decisions that have a risk reward mechanism and
wow, that's
have
interesting.
some benefit to you down the road in career. Those are all brand new as well.
Sounds like
it excites me the way that you describe some of the priorities that you guys had in developing this, when you talk about really just capturing the energy and the air and ambiance of not only race day and preparing to take on a race, but these career moments. And not to reiterate, or I guess I should reiterate because we may have some more people that have hopped in here, but the drivers that you have leaned on and used as resources to help in developing this game, the William Byrons, the Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s, it's so impressive and exciting to think that you're really using firsthand experience and they're helping you put us in that driver's seat. And it's really the best opportunity that we'll have to feel what it feels like from an overall just air and ambiance standpoint. It's exciting.
Yeah, sure. It is. It is.
So something that you mentioned, though, in that description, you mentioned the ARCA series. It does breed the question as to what series we can expect to see on this game. People had asked specifically about ARCA Regional, East and West. What can we expect?
Yep. So we have 4 series: ARCA, Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup. No divisional stuff yet, but I think what I would say there is that's an important sort of year one thing, is to get the plumbing in place to be able to do things like that we want to do in the future, right? So I always equate it to, like, if you're going to build a house, you're going to do a big custom house, maybe in your basement you want to plumb for an extra bathroom.
I've talked about
like
this
so
many times in the past, how the first game is important, correct, how you build
make sure that the
first game there, so that you can build every other game after that off of that initial build.
And so doing more series.
So that's pretty much what he's saying here. But you guys who follow me have heard me talk about that a lot through the years. You really do. Like he mentions it as a house and plumbing, kind of stuff, making sure that you're built for the future to expand.
But the key is building the foundation of career mode to have this notion of multiple series. I think some people hopefully are surprised and excited about the fact that we even got.
It sounds a little bit like they've been listening to me.
Effort. It's a big effort, right, to get to that point where you can just start to enable multiple series.
But I like what I'm hearing.
Those things going on at the same time, and so. That was a huge leap for year one, just to have 4. But then, like I said, the sky's the limit, so to speak, as we continue and see what else we can do down the road in years 2, 3, 4.
The groundwork has been laid, as you can say. We can only go up from here. So kind of on a similar note then, as far as things that are developing now and when we can expect to see them roll out in a gaming world, huge announcement this week with Ram coming back into the Truck Series. Will we expect to see Ram representation?
I know we will.
Not in year one. That's from what I understand. That's a year to 2026 thing. So, might we do an update to the game in the next season? Maybe.
I wouldn't expect it the first year, but that's fine.
Thing where we put them in there, but they're on track for 2026.
I am excited about Dodge.
Another question that I had, I'm making sure I'm trying to hit everybody's questions here. Multiplayer. What is that going to look like on this game, and what were some of the priorities there in developing that side
I
of
want to
gameplay?
see a template to run a
So,
league. That's what I want to see.
full fields. So field max in every series applies and online. All 4 series will be available. What else did I see asked? AI cars. There were some questions about, can I race with the AI in multiplayer? Yes, you can. Private lobbies. That's another big question I've seen a lot. We'll definitely have private lobbies. And then, again, there's some plans that we're still working on with maybe some weekly sort of special events and things like that, but more to come on that in the future.
They got to work.
I realize I should have asked this in our ARCA discussion, and I moved on too quickly. We expect to see the faces that we see on Saturdays and Sundays in those series. Is ARCA going to be the same way? Are we going to have ARCA drivers in the game?
Yeah, so those guys are super excited. And, you know, you can imagine, right? I don't want to generalize, but they're typically younger guys, newer to the series, right? And I think they're a little more... they played a lot of games, right? And so you go out, you try to get these guys to sign up, and they're like chomping at the bit, like, yes, that they want to get their partners more exposure. They want to like maximize their brand as they're coming up and trying to make a name for themselves. So we actually have, I think, more ARCA guys than we do anything else. It's like 50. Hang on, I have the numbers here somewhere. 56 ARCA guys.
Wow.
43 truck guys, 42 Xfinity guys, and 46 Cup guys.
Wow.
So that's very impressive.
Before anybody asks, we'll have rosters and all that stuff coming probably sometime in July, I would imagine, starting to kind of put those out and show you the list, the full list. But
it doesn't sound like anybody's going to be left out, which is good.
Guys. So what is that? 90... 190 something total licensed drivers.
So this might be then, I don't want to call it a dumb question, but I'll call it more of a general question for those of us like me that are still learning and excited about kind of getting into this gaming space even more so. I don't want to say getting into, because that discredits me. Learning more about the background of it. How do you work with 90-some drivers to ensure that they're represented correctly in this game? Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like in development? I have to imagine that's really cool.
Yeah, so a very large portion of my role, I tell everybody, is just air traffic control, right? Because like you've got 30 something tracks and 190 drivers and 100 and something race teams and NASCAR, and you know, generally everybody works together and rising tide floats all boats, and that's the whole way this sport works, right? But individually, yeah, there's a lot of just tactical bits and pieces and approvals and everything that goes in the game. We put it in there, but then we have to show it back to them and say, is this right? Is this what you sent us? I'll give a little shout out. Her name's Bethany. She's awesome. She handles 98% of all of that stuff for us and deals with race teams and the tracks and all that stuff to get all the approvals and logos and billboards and all that stuff. And she does an amazing job. It's largely a thankless task. And what I say about that stuff in general is when you get one thing wrong, like the gamers will find the one billboard on the one track that's wrong, but they don't say anything about the 9,999 of them that are correct, right? It's like
always.
But that's life.
Come
right?
on, let's start asking some good questions.
Not to jump around too much, but I'm reading the comments here, and you have mentioned this much earlier in our discussion, but to kind of reiterate for anyone that's hopped in, what consoles can we expect to see this on? And crossplay has been a big buzzword I'm seeing here, so give us some insight there.
Yeah. So platforms, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 and PC. I know there's going to be some PS4 guys that are upset by that, but here's sort of the harsh reality, which is those consoles are 12 years old at this point.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
There's some opportunity cost, right? So if we had supported the old consoles, you kind of got to take a group of people, take them off the project, put them solely on the job of making the game compatible.
I agree with this. That means I know some people that are on PS4 don't want to hear it on the old consoles, but at some point,
platforms.
Quite frankly, if I'm not mistaken, downgrading the game a bit to have to run it on an older system like
you're going to have to
and push. That and taking away resources that could be doing something else on the next gen consoles.
I agree.
Right? Because at the end of the day, you could split it and have two totally sort of diverging paths, but that's exactly right. It makes it less efficient, it makes it slower, it makes it more difficult to develop in the future because now you've got two code bases that start to diverge.
But is there going to be crossplay?
Had this been 2 or 3 years ago, we probably would have done the older consoles, but being where we are now and sort of
I agree with them.
Market is crazy. I mean, the way the market changes.
Forget the old consoles. You can't waste resources on that. But are we going to get crossplay? Come on, let's get to it.
It's crazy with the shift and how fast everything is changing in this space. But anyway, that's the reason. But focus on the. It's funny you still call them next gen consoles, but they're not even next gen anymore. They're current gen, and there'll be new ones here soon, I would imagine.
And things are only going to continue moving quicker.
I just saw in the chat, I didn't answer the cross-platform. No, unfortunately, no cross-platform for year one. Again, that's more a factor of just time and energy and making sure we get
almost
stuff
made
right.
It seem like they were going to say, we're going to...
Yeah, I know. There's all the booze.
I understand if they can't do it the first year, but...
We'll get to it. It's a priority for us going forward.
It looks like it's a goal for them to work on. If we don't get it the first game, it's not the end of the world.
Things like that. It's much better to have that available.
I'm glad somebody put it
While
in
on
the
topic,
comments.
one question that had been submitted prior to today was console specifications, what those would need to be in order to play this game.
Yeah, so that's really the same. It's the same question. It's PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X.
So we really, like me, I could have the most basic setup. I could go to the store, buy the console. Yep. I don't need a wheel. I don't need a rig. I don't need a pedal. I don't need anything.
Correct. It will work with controller. And I think, I don't know, we used to keep this data in some of the older games, but it's massive. It's like 70% of people actually play with a controller. The wheel.
As long as they support other peripherals, I'm okay with that.
I'd be curious, just
which you did say they
reading
were.
out of this side corner here. Chat, let us know what you tend to play on. If you play on a controller, if you play more on a wheel, what do you? I'd just be curious there. But
there's so many, like I can't even keep up. It's going so fast.
It's going so fast. And quite frankly, I'm seeing a lot of controller and wheel back and forth here. So it looks like it's
where are
pretty
people
split.
Posting these questions that they're looking at?
I want to ask. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting everyone's questions, because this really is about answering the questions from the gaming community. Difficulty settings. What can you tell us about what that's going to look like?
Yeah, so
that's a big question.
There's two ways to kind of look at this, right? One is, what is our sort of out of the box experience? And so when you first boot the game, you've never played it before, you literally get this choice. I think there's 6 of them, and those are just, a preset list of settings for 6 different levels of play, right?
I don't like that.
And I'd say for 80% of people, that works great, right? Like you pick one, especially if you played some of our games in the past, you kind of know.
I want to have something
where
more
to start out,
detailed,
and then you can make some minor adjustments from
there. Like 0 to 100.
What really sets us apart is the ability to really go in option by option and tune things. So I'll give you another sort of one-off example. There's the ability to not only set the AI on like a percentage overall of how fast they are, but then you can also adjust the pack size, right? So you can adjust the spread of like,
that's what I want to hear.
How fast is the fastest guy?
This is another good response.
And you can compact that to make it more challenging, or you can
I don't want that
out if
just
you wanna,
4 or 5 choices
really
of like all-star,
like,
legend,
really kicking my tail.
Rookie.
You don't necessarily want to win every race.
I want to be able to
like
really
from the mid-20s to the teens and up to the top 10s and things like that.
That's what I want.
You can do that by spreading out the pack size a little bit and making yourself more competitive within that pack, especially in career mode, as you're upgrading your car and doing R&D and trying to make your car better as well.
Well, that's good that they're going that route.
And kind of to that point, I know I asked a moment ago about for those like me who want to just maybe go to the store or use the console I have, throw in the game, start playing, figure it out from there. But there's a lot of other people that really want to get so much more out of this immediately. So things like DLC, what can they expect to be able to download to improve the game?
Yeah, so primarily paint schemes. Obviously, the paint scheme sort of economy in NASCAR is crazy. It's not like the old days where they, basically run the same paint schemes, but there's entire races like Darlington that are dedicated to throwbacks or different styles of paint schemes and things like that. So we're going to have a ton of those. I think
much like what we've been seeing.
It was over 400 paint schemes.
They're going to keep doing the DLC paint scheme packs and stuff like that.
You'll get basically one paint scheme per driver. There'll be a couple extras for like the cover guys and things like that on the initial launch, but all the rest of them will be through either the gold edition or you can buy individual paint packs separately. But those will start to trickle out after launch.
That's a bit disappointing
on a lot of them yet, but
I mean, I understand.
Definitely a lot of paint
schemes. They're not going to put every paint scheme for every driver like we used to get way back in the old days.
We haven't done this before, but
they're going to milk that.
Getting things for
DLC
career mode that could help you.
I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. I didn't think that was going to change.
Your engine performance or your golden chassis or golden suspension part, things like that. The notion of some extra cash as like a pre-order incentive with helping you start your career a little faster and helping you get money to
I'm not spending money on shit like that.
R&D process,
microtransactions, basically,
things like that.
You don't need to spend the money on that.
Schemes. There were some questions along the same lines of helmets and fire suits and any ability to customize those. Will there be DLC in regards to those?
Hold on a second.
Yep. So the car creator is what we call that whole system. Again, I think you'll see the foundation is similar to what you've had in the past, but expanded, right? There's things in NASCAR that you don't have in other series that you can palletize and start to change colors on haulers and pit boxes and things like that. And then, yes, helmets, the driver's suit, all of those things are fully customizable.
I'm seeing some questions over here in the chat, and they go hand in hand with some of the preemptive questions people had as far as the tracks and the series, what you can race where. I saw somebody specifically ask about a list of ARCA tracks, and then someone else said, can you race a Cup car at any track? So can you kind of lay out the similarities there to what we see maybe and what people are used to with iRacing?
Yeah, so again, we'll have much more detail on this probably in July where we start to release the track lists and things like that. But to be clear, we get all of our tracks directly from the sim. So we're not off creating some other version or fantasy tracks or any of that stuff. It's all stuff that's coming straight from the sim, and we do that for authenticity. We do that for the fact that they're laser scanned and super accurate and all of those reasons. And so you could probably figure out what the track list is just if you know the sim and you know what the NASCAR tracks are. But we'll definitely have a more comprehensive list probably in that same July timeframe.
Kind of a rogue question here, but it was submitted. What's the soundtrack look like? I mean, going back to the nostalgia factor of it all.
I never really cared about
that. That is huge. The music,
what's on the soundtrack.
It's got to be on par because truly that's what's going to resonate when you hear those sounds when you fire up that game. Can you give us some insight?
Yeah. So do you watch any of Junior's stuff on his his secondary? What is the one with him and Amy? Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
I'm not a big.
So she's always talking about how he has to be in control.
When you think
of music,
of the
right?
games from 20 years ago, you remember the iconic
that
sound.
App that he takes over music in the bar.
I don't think it's that important for video
Touch
games.
Tunes, I believe, or something.
Touch Tunes,
like that.
Touch Tunes.
Yeah.
For any of you out there that live anywhere near Mooresville, don't get into Touch Tunes war with the
digging into the questions.
But anyway, he is. very much into music,
So
and
far,
so he took that ball
it's
and ran with
moving
it.
slow,
Again,
and it
came out of
doesn't
one of
feel
the
like
meetings
they're
where
really getting
he was
into
asking, "How can I help? What can I
detailed
do?"
questions. So far,
And it's awesome. I've never seen
she
such a
needs to
diverse.
step it up.
There's literally something for everybody. So there's I'm gonna mess up the name. Hanuman kind. There's System of a Down. There's Eddie Rabbit. Like there's literally like you name a genre, it's in there. There's something for everybody. And I think it's gonna knock some people's socks off because they're not gonna expect it.
So you're telling me Dale Jr. quite literally said, like, I'll take the aux on this one. He was like, I'm just gonna take this. Give me the aux. I'll make the playlist. Don't worry about it.
100%. Yep.
It just plays even more into you guys creating the ambiance of being a driver. I mean, you will fire up this game, and from the way people speak to you, to the music, we are going to feel like we are Dale Earnhardt Jr. or one of these up-and-coming ARCA drivers, or any of the drivers from those series. Which actually brings me to another question, and you don't have to give us too much detail here, but the chat was asking
the player, right?
legacy drivers. You know, you mentioned 90-something drivers.
Sounds good,
are they all
but
active?
I want to hear details.
Yeah. So this has been a question for decades, and as you know, I've worked on a lot of them. The challenge with the legacy stuff is purely just the rights, right? Some of them aren't with us anymore. Some of them drove for companies that don't exist anymore. Race teams that don't exist. Numbers that have been reassigned or purchased by different races. Like I could go on for an hour about all the legalities and reasons why it's difficult, but the bottom line is it's just really, really difficult. Like one of the things I should have started with is literally every single one of us. It just seems to me like
she's reading questions
at the end of the day, right?
You don't know who asked them.
We know the history of the NASCAR franchise.
Does feel
we know the ups and the downs.
Like
we know all the
it
problems
shouldn't shock anyone.
We know all the successes.
But they probably went through a lot of the
we
questions.
Are fans.
And then
first.
they
so
handpicked which ones.
If there was an easy way to do it,
she could ask.
Do it in a heartbeat. It's just.
I don't think that this is
more
like
difficult
off the cuff.
Than it probably seems.
And a lot of questions are not going to be asked. Like, there's no way.
There's been products specifically built around that in the past, years and years ago. So you know,
I
try to never
this
say
would be a little bit more direct.
No, it's never going to happen. But I do want to be clear.
It's more of a
it's
casual
one of those things
interview
that's super challenging. It's
than anything
not an
else.
easy hurdle to get over.
Well, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to spin zone this, because it's really not what I'm trying to do. But your answer to that, to me, it says, okay, we knew this was going to be a really difficult challenge here. And all of that effort and focus went into what we just talked about capturing the energy and ambiance of being a current driver. You know, these are current racetracks, these are current setups, current cars, current feel, current music. You're focusing then on what it feels like to hop in the race car in 2025.
They're not really answering a lot of the big questions. Like people want to know if they could control the car in the pits,
because that's exactly what we want.
Under
this to
caution,
be, right? And
are there caution replays?
You think of NASCAR games of the past, and they did this weird thing where they kind of bounced in and out of TV versus driver versus whatever. Like you'd come in and it'd be this like over the top thing like you would see on Fox or NBC or whatever. And then they did some pre-race stuff, and then you hop in the car, and now it's like the driver view, and it's just kind of disorienting, right? Because it's not
perspective of who you are and where you are. It's hard to land.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're trying to say.
I want to hear
this.
Yeah,
and like other sports games don't really do that. Like Madden's more from the perspective of how they're on the field, and I mean, there's commentary and stuff like that, but
mostly
you get
about
what I'm saying,
you.
right? And so
what's happening around
sort of
you.
Focus for this year was
agree.
Exactly that. So all of these cutscenes that I'm talking about, all the new presentation, all the new sort of cinematic stuff is literally from the driver's perspective. It's not a TV shot.
That's
not
big
something that you would
for
see
me.
on
That's
Fox
what I
or
want to
NBC.
see. Everything should be from the player's point of view.
I'm trying to make sure. I don't want to bounce too all over the place, but I want to get everyone's questions answered. I mean, just because you just said it there in commentary on other sports games, will we have a similar in-race sound? What does the audio sound like, and what was the efforts put into that?
Yeah, so for us, it's more like I said, driver perspective, right? So the spotters is really what you're going to hear.
That's big.
You'll hear some muddled track announcers and things like that, but that's why you're not going to hear that sort of TV style commentary, is because you're the driver, right? So you're primarily hearing your engine.
I'm okay with
first
that.
and foremost.
I actually,
and then
that's what I've
those
been
spotters,
wanting.
And man, those guys have been amazing. TJ and Josh, they've been troopers in sort of doing everything that we've wanted them to do. It can get monotonous, having to record that stuff and spend time with us, and we ask them a lot of questions because those guys know everything. Like you want a quick just answer on, hey, how does this rule work, or what happens in this situation in qualifying? What about this?
I'm not crazy about the way
you ask a spotter, man, and they get right back to you, and they know the deal. So we're super
running
appreciative
the
of those
Q&A.
guys for a great partnership.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're saying that really even just puts it into perspective how
stuff.
One piece of this game, the spotter that you'll hear in your ear, the relationship that you had to have with people like TJ and to be able to do this, to spend the time, that is so extensive. That have to be the hours that were put in to recording all of this, and that is just one piece of what you'll be hearing and feeling throughout this game.
This is more of a soft
again,
interview,
not to sound like I'm trying to spin zone everything, but it goes back to the frequently asked question that I've seen some people bring up here as far as release dates, gameplay. There are so many tactical elements that have gone into this that I'll let you speak to, wanting to get them all right and having to get them all in order before
we know it's hard.
We can see that as the consumer.
Yeah, so
I'm glad that he's letting you know that's the perspective you're going to have it in the game.
Part traffic directing,
and have that relationship. That I like.
Just dotting I's and
I don't
crossing
need her to
T's
get asked,
this
stuff is really hard to do. How did you go about it? Like,
right?
we don't care.
It's been, 7 years since a good NASCAR game was out there, and we feel that pain just the same way that these guys in this chat do, and we want to make sure this is right, and we're working our butts off to get us there. And I also get it, the constant questions about when are you shipping and where's the gameplay shot. Like, I get that too. You don't want to pre-order a game without seeing the gameplay, and you shouldn't pre-order a game without seeing the gameplay, and you shouldn't just
pre-order
listen to
a game ever.
An influencer that somebody paid a lot of money to say something about a game.
I'm dead set against people doing it.
See it for yourself, experience it for yourself.
Why would you commit your money to something before you played it? Like, there's no
all
need
I can
to
do is tell you that I've been doing this a long time. It is far and away, like, it's not even close how well this game drives. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. It's literally, like I said,
they're really letting you know that
the one we've always wanted to get
that
right,
it drives
and,
well,
and it's already that.
So the gameplay, I'm expecting, they're raising the bar. They're telling you,
the laser scanned
he's
assets,
really
the
telling
laser
you
scanned
that it's
tracks,
great.
Cars, the differences we've made in career mode, and just the Dale Jr. stuff. I cannot wait for you guys to see the way that we're going to present some of this Dale Jr. stuff in career mode. It really is going to be the best one ever, I think.
And not to continue to rehash things, but to make sure that everybody hears what you're here to tell them, and because you brought it up yourself, what do you have to say to this part of the gaming space that feels hesitant about what the rollout's going to be, knowing that in the past, like you said, it's been a number of years since we had a very successful NASCAR game. And most recently, there is a lot of excitement and promise, and then that doesn't meet the expectations. So what can you tell the consumers about the efforts and the people that are working on this specific project that you can confidently say you can embrace this with confident, open arms, that this will be a success?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a totally different strategy in terms of working with influencers, getting the game out there, and the way that we're going to go about it.
And on the development side, sorry, not to cut you off, I just want to make sure I set you up correctly there. But just, and what I'm getting at really is your background. You mentioned you've been here through every iteration of NASCAR game, through EA games, and you can speak to the ability to pull the best of every piece of successful NASCAR game from the past and bring all of those minds together. For anybody that just didn't hear that earlier, I wanted to make sure that they were able to really understand.
Let's focus on that, because I don't want to talk about too many issues of the past. But
no, that's what I mean, is that these people, like, how can you explain to them the difference of what this means?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Is it's not just a marketing bullet or like me trying to be salesy or whatever. Like, it's the truth. I mean, there was 4 guys. I mean, you can see, which side are they on? That side. That's all my NASCAR plaques right there. But like, the same guys that designed all those EA games there were 4 of us. They all work for iRacing. The 20-something people that built Dirt to Daytona, they all work for iRacing. All the Papyrus guys, they turned into iRacing. All the stuff that's been done in iRacing since the Papyrus days is all available to us, right? Like, it is literally, you cannot put together a better team and a better set of assets and a better group to do this work than what we have. And that's what's exciting for me. It's a giant full 360 experience for me to go through this.
I try not to talk too much over them, and when I do, it's when they're not, in my opinion, they're not saying anything
20 whatever years later
critical
and
in terms of information.
The dream
He's
is
talking
here,
about
right?
the team they
put the right team together. We've got all the assets. We've got the awesome physics from iRacing.
Like we know,
it's an amazing thing. And again, I realize this is just words.
I try not to chime in too much.
Like,
but
that stuff is coming. But
times where they say
all I can tell you is what I know,
like, okay,
and what I know from doing this for 20-something years.
Throw in my 2 cents, but I'm
going
to try to not do it so much.
To your point, it's that the answer right now is, if you trust iRacing, which clearly we all do. I mean, that is the platform. If you trust iRacing, you can trust this game, and you can trust what you're going to be able to experience in this game.
I will say one thing just on the historical stuff, which is part of the challenge in the past has been longevity, right? Look at a Madden, look at a FIFA, look at a NBA 2K. Those things are super successful, and those things are the behemoths that they are because they've lived in the same building for a long time, right? And that lets you build this gigantic product and do everything that you could possibly, like, what can you do to Madden to make it more NFL than it already is, right? But that's 30-something years of it being under the same roof.
I wouldn't talk so much about Madden.
And people who love the game and people who bust.
I mean, I'm not worried about these guys.
The downside of NASCAR is
they're the ones developing it, and I feel good about it.
Off, and then there was competition, and then there wasn't competition, and then it got let go from EA, and then it went to some overseas people that didn't really value it, and then yada yada yada. Right, the rest is the story. But what I hope is that. It's not what I hope. What I know is that iRacing is super well funded. We've been around a long time. We've all been doing this for 20 years too. Like I said, there's this whole cool story about.
They haven't mentioned driving mechanics yet.
And Kemmer that goes back
but
25, 30 years at this point too.
It drives amazing.
It has a home now, right?
So
it has the right home with the right people and the right technology. And all we're going to do is make this thing better. And we've got a year plan to get us out the door. We've got a 3-year plan of where we want to be in 3 years, and we've got a 10-year plan of what does the Madden level NASCAR game look like, and where do we want to be long term with everything Madden. We can possibly do. And it's important to have both the long term plan and the resources and team and assets to actually.
That's where you get stuff like Ultimate Team and others. Garbage.
This insight has been so valuable. Thank you. I know personally, I'm very excited. And I knew a little bit of this information, obviously, through just getting to know you and through what I've been reading online. But what you've been able to confirm so far and kind of tee up has been very exciting. And again, the 2 major questions before we really wrap this up, and for anyone that's getting here, release date, gameplay, hit them again, just because we all want to know. We're excited.
Yep. So we'll have, before the end of June, we'll have an exact date, but we're definitely in the late September, early October timeframe. Gameplay trailer you can expect about a month before that. So
That's
late August,
perfect.
somewhere in that window.
That's what I've been saying.
But
1 month before
we're ready.
release.
Listen, look, we're not at this point not showing the game because it's not where it needs to be. It's more just getting the assets approved, going through the race teams, going back through the tracks. Like, the stuff is there. The stuff is ready. Literally, if I could turn my camera, I'd show you. It's right there running on my machine and has been for a long time. And so we're not trying to hide anything. We're not in trouble or anything like that. It's just trying to get through those last couple of steps, and we'll have a release date very soon. Screenshots, I think, probably in the July window. We'll do driver rosters. We'll do final track lists, all of those things in the next month and a half here.
And to kind of leave us with some excitement here, something I want to reiterate that you mentioned earlier is that you guys are a group of video game developers, but you're also a group of NASCAR fans. And you and gamers, and you care about this, and you're consumers, and you know what will excite the NASCAR fan base. So what can you give us, maybe, that you haven't already touched on today, that you know will impress fans? Is there a feature that you know will really stick with us, or something that you can kind of leave us hanging on just to be really excited to look forward to as a NASCAR fan?
I'm just really excited about career mode in general. I think there's so many unique sort of twists that we've put on it, and it's really gonna feel, even though, like I said, like it's kind of the same thing you would say about any sports game, right? Like, as much as I said about Madden earlier, at the same time, it's still Madden, right? Like, you get Madden every year, and it still feels generally the same. And so our career mode is going to function the same way that it has been in the past, but it's all the bells and whistles. And what I used to say, even in the Monster days, was it just needs the polish, and it just needs the presentation, and it just needs those like extra steps. And that's what
I've
we
been
get
talking
from
about
Dale
that
Jr.'s
for years,
and from iRacing and from all of these things, is that plus it up and really sort of drive it home. And I'm really excited for people to see the new career mode this year.
I know I'm gonna let you go on here on time. We're getting close to an hour here now chatting about the game, but I do just want to make sure that everybody feels heard, and I want to make sure that you have felt that you've had the space to give us all of the answers that we might be not even knowing that we have questions about. But I am reading the chat. I mean, you guys have a lot of questions. It's hard to figure out how to field everyone's question because, to be honest, a lot of them are about specifics of competition in the game. Like one question that was asked beforehand was about left side tires. Like, will you have the option to only put on left side tires for certain, longer races for strategy? There was some questions here, more specifically, and now of course you guys have hit me up in the chat, but can you tell us a little bit to answer, it's hard to answer everyone's question about the competition element of it, but even just the tires alone, can you answer that question for us?
Yeah. So full pit options, all the rules, like the stages and all the sort of NASCAR rules you would expect to be in the game, all the pitting options you would expect. Everything is going to be there for sure.
Okay. And again, just making sure I'm having everybody. We talked a little bit about the series, ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, of course. Driver transfer, silly season. These are some words I've kind of been seeing come up, and this might be stuff that you can't give us the information on quite yet. But do you have any insight there?
Not sort of in the traditional silly season sense. I mean, like I said, there's some turning points and some things like that you'll have to make some decisions on, and but again, that's sort of in the building blocks category, right? Is to be able to build a system that in the future would let you do some silly season stuff, but not sort of in the traditional sense, no.
Well, I had the list. It's here. I'm reading the chat, y'all. These are the questions that you asked. We asked you to ask them, and I've tried to answer most all of them. So in addition to some of them here through the chat live today. So if you didn't get your question answered, maybe try to go back through, have some conversations with people that were here the whole time, because we really tried to touch on everything that you guys sent our way. We weren't trying to avoid anything. So by all means, continue to throw questions.
And we're going to do this again. I think as we get, I don't know exactly when, but as we get closer to launch, do this again, maybe bring on some different people. So it's not just me over and over, but have maybe some more technical people if people are into asking technical questions. But I hope that it translates that we are fans, we are passionate about this stuff. We've been doing the dev diaries. You know, the other thing I would say is there's unintentionally and through no fault of ours, there has been a void in NASCAR gaming, right? And so there's extra pressure, extra challenge on us to fill that void by talking a lot about making the game. And we know that that's a lot of words and a lot of, the dev diaries are what they are. I think they're interesting, but we understand that you want to see gameplay and all that stuff too. But the point is, we try to do our best to keep you guys informed, keep you excited, tell you what's going on as best we can, and get you some confidence that we're here and we're doing the right stuff, we're making the right decisions, and that we're going to deliver. And I hope that that's coming across the right way.
I know personally as a consumer, I appreciate the openness, the candidness. I really do feel like you guys are an open book. So personally, again, as someone who's looking forward to playing the game, I encourage everybody in the chat, anyone who's also in the same place as I am, to continue to stay involved, continue to stay invested with the rollout of everything, even before you're able to pre-order, because ask the questions. We want to answer them. We want you to be just as excited and confident in purchasing this as we are and as you are, Matt. So continue to stay involved, ask your questions, comment on anything that you see, and we'll try to do even more of this in the future to keep everybody in the know. Well, Matt, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate, like I said, you jumping in here, and obviously NASCAR's support, Nick, Rend, and Brianna, and Ray, and his whole team, and it's really cool to have. I've had a long relationship with Nick and those guys as well, doing this as many years as I have, and it's just cool. Like I said, it's this full circular story that we're excited about. So, and I saw the message in the chat. Whoever said, "Do it for Dale," Matt. Those are all 3 cars right there. I don't know if you can see that. That's all 3 cars. But
you weren't joking when you said this is a game. That's what we try to do. Made for fans by fans. There's a lot of love and a lot of nostalgia and passion in that game for sure. Matt, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. I know the chat appreciates it. I look forward to hearing more from you and from other members of that NASCAR 25 crew as we get closer and closer to the release date. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, chat. See you soon.
All right, guys. I'm going to give you some thoughts before I get off, right? First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining my live stream. I know some of you may have not liked me talking over them a couple of times, but I really do think I picked certain moments where I knew they were talking about stuff that wasn't important and things we already know. Like when he started explaining to you about how, the people that are there working, from whatever studio, some of them came from Papyrus and all that. Like, we know that stuff. I don't think anybody here is surprised by any of that. So I would pick moments like that just to put in my 2 cents. I tried the best I could, But basically, what did I get out of this? I didn't get much. I think most people will agree. They really didn't answer anything, any specific questions that came from somebody specifically. Like, there was the one thing about, can you change 2 tires, right? I'm almost certain that came from Elite Precision. I did see him post that, I think, on Twitter. But outside of that, I'm not sure anybody, the questions were pretty generic, and they kept going off into stuff that, wasn't important. And I was hoping this would be more of a, hey, is there, silly season? he could talk a little bit about that and just say, well, no, not for the first game. We're not really planning on that. You know, we know people are interested, but, it's possible in the future, right? Keep it short, keep it simple, go to the next question. I knew going in, nobody was going to walk away thinking they answered all the questions. I mean, it's impossible. But I just feel like she could have, I'm not blaming her for all of it, but really keeping things moving and just getting to the specifics, that should have been a higher priority. I could tell you more than half of this live stream was just regurgitating stuff we already know. We know they care about this game. We know that there are people behind it that came from Papyrus and EA and all that stuff, and how they care about this game. I appreciate that, but we already know that. So I was hoping to just get to the nitty gritty, more details. He did say early on he doesn't want to spoil too much about the game, right? That I understand with maybe an adventure type game. Like these are sports games. The only surprises maybe is in the details, right? You're not going to spoil anything. Like, we know what we're getting. Like, what we want to get is your basic NASCAR game with all the bells and whistles, and just do it well, right? I don't think anybody's expecting like a storyline or anything like that. So there isn't much to spoil. Like, I don't think he could have revealed something that was going to make someone say, well, you just spoiled it for me, I'm not buying this game. The people that want to buy this game, they're going to buy the game unless something comes out about this game that shows, hey, this is a mess. I don't feel that way. I do believe in these guys. I am convinced they're putting forth their best effort. I am happy to hear. There were things he said I was happy to hear. He talked a lot about presentation. You guys know for years I've been talking a lot about presentation and the lack of presentation that has really kept these NASCAR games from being all they could be. We had, we went years without stats, right? So I'm not worried about that stuff. He pretty much, let us know, hey, there's plenty of presentation. Another thing he said that on the positive side, right? I'm not going to kill this whole Q&A session. There were things worth listening to. All I'm saying is it could have been handled better. They should have focused more on being efficient with the Q&A part of it, rather than, a lot of the stuff she asked was generic. She mentioned how hard it is to have all these drivers in the game and how making that work. Like, people don't really care. They didn't tune in to hear about, how much work it is, right? And I don't mean to sound like that, but I appreciate the work that it takes to make all this happen. But I just want to know, is this in the game? How is this? They should have kept it more direct. But he did mention a lot about presentation. As far as the driving and the physics and all that, I didn't expect to see anything or hear anything direct. But he did keep reiterating how good the driving is and how much fun he's having, playing it. So for me, that sets the bar a little higher. Also, he did say that it's not gonna be iRacing, but they are leaning on a lot of stuff from iRacing, and from the sound of it, I would expect the gameplay to be a simcade, right? So it's not gonna be arcadey, but it's gonna have elements of both. It does sound like they're leaning more towards casual gamers, but they are supporting wheels and all that stuff. What else? They didn't really get into much. And I'm sure I'm going to miss a few things, but Yeah, I think most people are going to walk away from this a little disappointed that they didn't get a lot of the Q&A stuff, right? She just, handpicked a few questions and threw it out there, and it's just, I don't know. It could have been handled better. I'm not attacking her. I think it could have been. Hope they said they're going to do this again, and I'll live stream it again. But I hope they learn from this, and they actually focus a little bit more on the nitty gritty, so to speak, the details. I know they're not going to answer every question, but the idea that they don't want to spoil surprises and stuff, it's like, it's a sports game. Like, there's nothing you're going to reveal that's going to be like, oh, well, now that I know, like, you just spoiled the ending of the movie for me. There's nothing like that. Like, when you're talking about, like, adventure games and stuff, yeah, then people will say, hey, you just fucking blew a whole plot point of the game, right? So it's like, I already know going in what to expect. We don't need to know that. This is a sports game. So let me see if there's anything. By the way, welcome, What If Racing. Haven't seen you around in a while. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Somebody says, that was very generic. My question wasn't answered in regards to paint booth and paint your car and all that. Yeah, like I said, hey, what's the, customization going to be like? As far as, not just the car, but the characters or, the fire suit, the helmets. Can we customize that stuff? Again, I did not expect them to answer everyone's questions, but it doesn't feel like they really tried to get in there and find interesting questions to. I don't know. They could have handled it better. Give me good presentation physics and good force feedback for wheels and I'm good to go. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, everything we've seen so far, forget about today. The developer diaries, the things that they talked about that they've already confirmed that are in the game, for me, it's more than enough for the first game. Like, I wanted to see a fully fleshed out game that wasn't missing basic features, right? That, like, we're used to getting that. It really feels like they're gonna deliver a fully fleshed out, well-rounded NASCAR video game. There's gonna be things people want that are not in the game, but this is what I want to see for the first game, right? I always tell people, you can't just keep saying, as long as the game works, I don't care. They got to deliver more. And to me, just looking at what's already been confirmed, I am satisfied. I like hearing what I'm hearing. I like that career mode is a big deal and that presentation is a big deal. I like that he also confirmed that the presentation they're going for is going to be more about direct to the player, right? Because you're supposed to be immersed in this world, and that's what games like NBA 2K do so well. I wasn't crazy that he's just keeps mentioning Madden. Madden is not an example I want to use, but I honestly don't think he follows Madden or plays Madden that often. Like, anyone who's in that community knows what a dumpster fire the Madden franchise has become. So, personally, I would have steered clear from that. But I know the point he was trying to make, and that really these sports games should be more about you. So the presentation should be geared around you. Like, this is you at the track or at the shop. What do you deal with? And how that game, the presentation is laid out, that's what I want to see. And I like that. So there were good things about this live stream that I can walk away feeling good about. But overall, we didn't get enough info. And I really just think she did not do a good job of really trying to have at least some of the major questions answered. There's a lot of people asking about, caution replays, or drive. How much control do you have of the car? Like, are you gonna have be able to drive in and out the garage or down the pits, stuff like that. I don't think that's gonna make or break the game, especially the first iteration. But at least throw that out there, and then maybe he could just say, well, that's not going to be in the first game, but that is on our to-do list, and maybe we'll implement it down the line. That's it. Like, I think people are going to be more disappointed that they just didn't address this stuff than the answer itself, because I think most people do understand. Like, he did also mention about crossplay. Now, I was disappointed that they said there's not going to be any crossplay in the first game. But, he also mentioned that, yeah, we're not going after last-gen consoles. Like, I agree with that. You're not going to get the best game if you're still trying to have something that also works on these older consoles. And at some point, we're not in year 1, 2, or even 3. Like, by now, I get it. A lot of people still are on the old consoles and stuff, but I don't know what to tell you. Like, I want to see the best possible games. So that was something worth listening to. I'm not sure what else I got from the live stream. Let's see. What if says, why even pretend of having people submit questions but then basically do most of your own? I don't like that vibe I get from it. That's exactly my point. It's like she didn't handle it well, and it just was like it was very generic. It felt more like an interview than a Q&A. And she just let him go on a lot about stuff that's not important and not for a Q&A session, right? So I agree with what if. Doxy Gaming says, and to add to my comment, I found it funny that many people in the live chat were disappointed it wasn't going to be released on the PS4. I don't get what these people expect. Yeah, I agree. That's my point. NASCAR Wrecker says, did they say anything about challenges? Can someone not? I don't remember anything about challenges. Die Hard, welcome. The new Madden game looks pretty good though. They're doing a lot of changes. Man, let me tell you something. You're gonna have to show me before I believe, because every year they do this. They tell you that it's a whole new thing, and now they got this whole new physics thing that they're working on, and they give it a fancy name, and then you get the game, and it's the same old broken mess. So I gotta see, and they really need to blow that whole franchise up and start from scratch with a whole new ground up build. Let's see. Nothing mentioned about the modes besides career and online. Yeah, like I said, man, I'm a career mode guy, and there's gonna be online. So it sounds to me like the online's gonna be pretty much what we've already seen. My thing about the online is I'd like to see where you can set up your own league and have it fully supported with stats and a schedule, and you can run it, according to an actual schedule, and just a simple template of being able to do that. That would, to me, would generate a lot of interest, because take it from me, from personal experience, the best experience I've had racing online has been when I was in the league, because you really feel like you're part of something and that the things you do actually matter, instead of just jumping in and doing these one-off race sessions, so. But that's definitely not going to be in the first game, but I'm going to keep mentioning it, and hopefully sometime in the future they realize, hey, we got to spice it up, and this isn't that hard to implement. So Walk Talk says, always pre-planned questions. Yeah, that's what I said early in the live stream. I said it just feels like, yeah, they probably handpicked a few questions, and then he knew what he was going to kind of be asked. It just doesn't feel like it was off the cuff. I don't know how they do this, right? They didn't even explain that, but I'm going to tell you, I think 90% of the people that watched probably feel the same way, that this wasn't a real good Q&A session. Again, I want to remind people, don't judge everything based on a Q&A session or the way they handled it. Like, this isn't make or break. Like, I'm more focused on the things that have been confirmed in the game. We know they're using iRacing assets. I do feel very positive about the game. Again, do not pre-order, and we have to wait and see what this product is, right? But I like what they're trying to do with it. But let's see. Why is it that these fans ask so much about how many drivers are in the game? Will it be wheel compatible? We legitimately know this shit. Yeah, I don't like. It's nice to know they got so many of these drivers. It sounds like they got all of them. Maybe one or two here and there, but fine, they're in the game. It's like NFL just needs to open a license for the develop. Yeah, it's a money thing. EA pays them very well for that license. They don't want competition. Yes, a league with stats. Yeah. I mean, shit. I would spend a lot more time online if I could fucking join a league or run a league and have a schedule. And it's like, okay, every Wednesday night, 8 p.m., Disco Inferno League, and here's the schedule. And it's going to be, 50% race length. And here's the, and it's fully supported with stats. And there's a fucking, a point standings and all that shit and the playoffs, all that good stuff. We have yet to see this in any NASCAR game. And it's always been about, just join these random lobbies or private lobbies, and it's just okay, just run, and it's just about that race. I think that's the next big step they have to make, and it's not that hard to implement, and I'm going to keep mentioning it at every opportunity. Hopefully they listen. So she didn't seem prepared. Yeah, I honestly feel like they handpicked a few basic questions. She probably shot him an email, this is what I'm going to ask. And that's it. And there was more rambling going on than actual direct info and just answering questions. And like I said, even if he came out and said to most questions, well, we can't do this now for whatever reason, or maybe in the future, and just move on, right? People just want to feel like, okay, he's addressing a lot of the stuff. Some stuff people are going to be disappointed with, but I don't think anyone's going to be like, I'm not buying this game, and just because crossplay is not part of it. But just make people feel like, hey, yeah, they did really answer a lot of these questions. There was no mention of customization, really, unless I missed it or forgot. So let's see. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm excited about it. I love the focus on the career mode and the fact that they really are putting the work in for presentation. These games have been so bare bones. I'm excited overall, So don't get lost in the weeds of how this Q&A went. It wasn't handled. It could have been handled better. It wasn't a total disaster, but it was a disappointment. That's just the way it is. And hopefully they realize that. And maybe they said they're going to do it again. And I would assume maybe July, August, right? And hopefully the next time they say, okay, let's be a little more direct. Let's cut the fat out and just get, down to the nitty gritty, so to speak. So those are pretty much my thoughts. I want to thank everybody for joining the live stream. This is a very small channel. You guys know I don't ask people to like and subscribe or anything like that. This is something I do out of passion. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you who take time to join my live streams. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I look forward to your comments later.